Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, getting ready to go over this nice DraftKings main slate. Should be a fun one. We have 6 games, which feels a little bit more palatable than yesterday's, which was hefty. The day before that was more than 6 as well. So it's been a bit crazy. These bigger slates, it's kind of like if you do one thing bad and just all these other guys are just going crazy, you're in big trouble. Yesterday, we had a lot of good plays. Taylor had some really good GPP suggestions. Just a lot of guys we talked about. We were kind of tightening our player pool a little bit, even with a big slate. And all those guys really did well. The only one who didn't was a guy who popped in at the last second, Karis LeVert. But at 4K in the starting lineup for the Cavs, he looked like a priority, and he got 3.5 fantasy points. Brutal, brutal, brutal. But if you avoided LeVert and followed our advice, you would have won. We definitely had some big winners in our Discord yesterday. So it could have been a really fun night for you. But I encourage you to definitely join our Discord. It is free to come in there and chat, and we give updated advice and core plays for DraftKings main slate leading up into lock. So definitely take advantage of that. And of course, you get this free video every single day. So if those things are useful to you, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Really helps us out quite a bit. And if you want to give back and help us out back, you can also join our Patreon. We are offering a 7-day free trial for all of our packages there. Right now, you can get access to our DraftKings night slate picks, our FanDuel main slate picks, and our MMA DFS picks as well. So if you're not sure about it, you can get the 7-day free trial and just test us out on our paid products. And then, stick around if you want, if we help you out, and you can give a little something back to support us. But honestly, just watching and coming and joining Discord and every like and subscription, all that stuff helps us quite a bit. And we definitely appreciate every single person that comes along for the ride. All right, let's get into it. We're going to break down the slate, going position by position, highlighting the top plays of the slate. And they'll just give you an approach and strategy of how I am going to approach the slate. But of course, we're still in trade season. So we have 2 hours technically on the NBA trade deadline. A lot of things have gone down. Won't be shocked at all to see something else go down. So if this video gets a little bit dated, that's what Discord is for. So pop into our Discord and come in and join the community. All right. So up top, James Harden comes in with the best overall projection at point guard. He looks really good at 9K. His price has come down a little bit. He's got a pretty good matchup against the Pacers. I do not mind him whatsoever. I typically don't like attacking pricey studs when all the guys around them are are healthy. So Harden is not somebody I'm going to race to go play because they do have Kawhi and they have Norm and Sue. Like, they have everybody. So unless somebody's out or traded or something, I don't think I'm going to make Harden like the number one priority. He's absolutely on my radar when you have the best projection in a position and you're 9K. Definitely in play. I do like Harden a good deal. That said, Anthony Edwards also looks really good. He has $700 more. So compared to Harden, he's probably going to be way less owned. He's coming off a 50-point game last night. Was it 50 or 59? It was something crazy. But he had 69 is what he has. 69 fantasy points. Just awesome. We loved Anthony Edwards going up against the Bulls. Don't like him quite as much here against the Rockets, and that is why he's going to have lower ownership. But as a GPP play, he does look good. Austin Reeves and Amen Thompson are probably my favorite spend ups at point guard right now. There's also Steph Curry. Soft matchup against the Lakers, only 8.2K. I mean, Steph Curry has not been great. He did pop off in his last game. That was last night for 47 fantasy points, 32 real points on 31 shots. So here's the deal with Curry. At 8.2K against the Lakers, that all looks good. What he did last night, that looks awesome. The usage he got last night, that looks amazing. Only problem is he's old. He's been looking pretty washed lately. And, so that is something we have to consider. And obviously the second leg of a back-to-back. So is he even going to play? Is he going to be limited? I think I'm going to not be that concerned about that as long as he's active and starting, because the Warriors are supremely shorthanded. Short of Jimmy Butler making his debut tonight, which doesn't seem realistic at all, he should have to do a lot of heavy lifting again. So I do like Curry quite a bit at 8.2K. Right now, he is coming in as the second highest owned point guard on the slate, only behind Podziemski, who's way cheaper and played a ton last night, and I'll get to him in a second. Point being, as long as Curry plays, I think he's a good play. I don't have a problem with him whatsoever. If you don't want to eat a chalky Curry, though, coming off a back-to-back, I think Amen and Austin Reeves look awesome. They're going to be way less owned by comparison. They're going to carry a little bit of ownership because they are nicely priced and project very well. So but they're going to be like half his own is Curry. So all those guys look good, and you can pick your spot for sure. But I think Austin Reeves and Amen look like really good pivots off of Curry tonight. Kyrie Irving at 8.7, kind of stuck in no man's land because he's a little bit cheaper than Harden, who just feels way safer, and he is a little bit more expensive than guys like Reeves, Curry, and Amen, who just feel like better plays. On the road against the Celtics, never ideal. Anthony Davis might make his debut tonight with the Mavs. So if that happens, obviously from a usage perspective and ceiling perspective, Kyrie is just not going to be as appealing. But at 8.7K with no Luka there, obviously, I think Kyrie is still a good tourney play. He's going to be very, very low owned no matter what. Even if Brow is out, I wouldn't imagine his ownership will spike that much because of the other options and because playing at TD Garden is not very fun. So all those guys look really good. Right now, if I had to pick one guy to pay up for, I think I'm leaning towards Reeves. He's got the third best projection of the slate. It's just him and LeBron right now until Luka shows up potentially on Saturday. So he looks awesome. And then if I had to pick somebody after him, I would just pivot to a chalky Curry. I think Curry's a little bit more appealing than Amen on the slate, just because Amen's on the road against the Timberwolves. Don't really love that. I think he's a good pivot still, but I think I would prefer Austin and Reeves ahead of him. So as we go down here, Tyrese Halliburton, good price, bad matchup on the road against the Clippers. He was horrendous last time out. He had no points. No real points. Disgusting. In 24 minutes, they got blown out by the Blazers. Absolutely brutal. I think you could still go back to him just because his prices come down, and usually good players don't have horrific lines like that 2 games in a row. So pretty good bounce back opportunity for him in terms of just, logically not being absolute trash 2 games in a row, but not really the best spot. I think he's a tourney play only. I think Simons is okay. Derek White is a little bit more appealing in that range if Drew Holiday is out. Let me check the status actually live here. So Drew Holiday is questionable. If he's out, Derek White would get a boost. Peyton Pritchard down here at 4.8K would get a boost. Pritchard, if Drew's out, would be probably a core play against the Mavs here. He looks good anyways as just like a GPP flyer at 4.8, even if Drew is in. And Drew himself at 4.5, if he is in, you can certainly play him as well. But Pritchard looks awesome if Drew doesn't play. And Derek White also looks pretty damn good at 6.3 if that's the case. Malik Monk did not play a lot when Levine made his debut last night. So that's a little bit disconcerting. It was against the Magic, which is not a good spot, which, going in, we just knew that. Orlando's not a fun team for DFS purposes. He only played 24 minutes, though. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I think if Malik is the same guy he had been, prior to Levine coming in, like this all looks pretty good. Good usage rate, explosive player, good ceiling, and usually good projection. We're not getting that right now against the Blazers, who have been pretty darn good lately, 9-1 over the last 10 games. So certainly worth checking up on. And just let's look at the reality here. Look where he's sandwiched in. Derek White, if Drew's out, would be a way better play. Podziemski at 4.4K is one of the best plays on the slate. Podziemski right now is chalk, but he looks like good chalk. The Warriors are without a ton of bodies today. Let's see here, just to double check. Andrew Wiggins got traded. Still no Kuminga. Moody's questionable. Kyle Anderson got traded. Lindy Waters got traded. So they're just shorthanded. So Pod played 40 minutes last game, had 45 fantasy points. I would expect something similar even on the back-to-back. I just think if they're going to take it easy on somebody, it's not going to be Pod. It'd be Curry or Draymond. So Pod looks awesome at 4.4. Elite salary saver for sure. Scoot Henderson is 6.6. I need somebody from the Blazers to be out to do that. That's too much for his limited role. Obviously, he's a GPP play just because he does have a ceiling, but I'm just not going to do that. No Jalen Suggs tonight, so you can entertain Cole Anthony at 6K and Anthony Black at 4.2. Not super excited to play either of them. The Nuggets have given up a lot of offense lately, so it's really a pretty positive matchup for the Magic. So I definitely would lean Cole just because we know he's got a safer floor and a higher ceiling, but 6K for Cole with Franz and Banchero there doesn't feel great. And there's just other good value. Like I said, obviously Pod, Pritchard, possibly, maybe even Drew. So don't think we really need to do that. Don't think we need either of them. Just saying they are a little bit more in play than they would be with Suggs not in there. Conley at 5K, if he's in, is fine against the Rockets, who take a little bit of a defensive hit with no FVV in there. I'm okay with him. He's not going to be a priority with the other value looking way better. He's also in, gray beard, and he's coming off a second. He's on the second leg of a back-to-back set, so pretty decent chance he sits, or just they don't push it too hard with him. So I just don't want to mess with that. If he's out, we can entertain Rob Dillingham at 3.6K for sure. Dillingham is kind of in play anyways. If you just want to go YOLO and just risk it, he's going to get like 15 to 20 minutes off the bench. But if Conley were out, Dillingham would be a smash play. Nobody else really calling to me here. One other guy I'll mention is Shake Milton at 3.1K though. Not like a safe play, but Max Christie got traded. Dalton Knecht just got traded. Gabe Vincent is questionable. Luka obviously isn't playing yet. Cam Reddish got traded. So maybe they play Bronny James more. He's 3K too. There's that. I mean, Bronny James in the last game, he only played 6 minutes. But I mean, somebody's got to play some of these minutes. I would imagine it's going to be Shake. But it could be Bronny too. But I just think with the lack of bodies for the Lakers, it's worth pointing those guys out. And in big GPPs, if you want to just get a bare minimum guy who could get out there and play 20 minutes, I think Shake does look interesting. He did have this massive explosive game right here. Obviously an extremely low floor, GPP only, but he is interesting. And the last guy I want to touch on is going to be Reed Shepherd. If I can find him here, he's way down here. Not entirely sure why. Because FFV remains out, Jabari Smith remains out, Tari Eason is questionable, and Steve Adams is doubtful. So Houston's going to be shorthanded in general. They're going to need a point guard. And while Aaron Holiday started the last game, Reed Shepherd took over and started the second half. So Reed Shepherd at 3.8K, even in a tough environment, he looks awesome if he gets the start. I think you can try him if they do the same thing where Aaron Holiday starts, and then you can just hope that the similar situation, he gets a bunch of run off the bench. But he smashed in that game. Reed Shepherd did here. He crushed. He had 34 fantasy points in 27 minutes. If we can expect that at 3.8K, I love that. I'm down for that for sure. All right, kick it over. Shooting guard. Anthony Edwards looks like the safest play at 9.7K. Matchup with Houston is not really ideal. Like I said, he's going to be a GPP play only for me, but hey, we know he has a massive, massive ceiling. And no Julius Randle really opens up a lot of usage for all these Timberwolves guys. Second leg of a back-to-back set, not the best matchup, not exactly cheap, but honestly, no stud on this slate seems to be like without flaws. So you can look at misprice, you can look at ownership, you can look at matchup, whatever the case may be. So if somebody like Edwards with such a massive ceiling is going to be overlooked, and right now he is very much so, then that's very appealing for sure. Already talked about Austin Reeves, love him. Jaylen Brown at 8K. Boston, it's a similar situation like I spoke with about the Clippers. When everybody's there, they're just a little bit less appealing. That said, Drew Holiday is questionable. So if Holiday doesn't play, just everybody gets a tiny boost. He's not a high usage guy, so I'm not going to move the needle completely for everybody. I would mostly apply that to Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, but just naturally, naturally Jaylen Brown's going to get a little bit of uptick in, playmaking and stuff. So I think just always, we always talk about Jaylen Brown. Whenever he's 8K or less, he just seems too cheap. So I think he looks pretty good here. The matchup with the Mavs is not hard or anything. And not great in this last game against the Cavs, but it's a better matchup than the Cleveland for sure. He's been really rock solid, so I do not mind going there. Not an amazing ceiling on the year, but at 8K you can do a lot worse. Jalen Green at 7.3K, he projects pretty well, even though the matchup at Minnesota is not great. The projection is good enough to take that dive, especially since he's not garnering ownership. So I don't mind him at all. Feel a little bit better about him than Jalen or Jamal Murray at this point. He's cheaper than both those guys, and he projects just about the same, and he's going to be less owned than both of them. So I like that quite a bit. So if I am going to live in that range, I think I would prefer Jalen Green. There's also Norm Powell at 6.9. Don't mind him, but again, when all the Clippers are there, I just don't see them as priorities. I think if I was going to be playing Powell at 6.9, I would just go up and get Jalen Green in this case. Talked about most of these guys already. There is Zach LaVine at 7.9. He was very poopy in his Kings debut, 20 fantasy points. I wouldn't read too much into that because it was his first game in a new system, and he was playing the Magic. So definitely a better spot at Portland tonight The minutes projection is good. The price is okay. It's come down from when he was with the Bulls, but the actual projection leaves a lot to be desired. So once again, Jalen Green season for me there, or I'd rather just go pay up for Austin Reeves over him. I just think there's better plays. I don't really love him here. Pod can be used at point guard or shooting guard, so definitely have interest in him. Like I said, he's going to be a core play. Buddy Hield, maybe not a core play because he's an old boy, but at 4.2K, he is cheaper than Pod, and he should get a bunch of run. He played a lot last night, and he was pretty good, 30 fantasy points. So if we can expect 30 minutes from Hield at 4.2K, I do have interest in him. Only problem is he's only shooting guard eligible, so don't love that. But the matchup, the price, and the role all look really, really good, so he should definitely be on your radar. Christian Brown is 5.5K, but still no Russell Westbrook and Peyton Watson, so he's going to continue eating a ton of minutes. The matchup with Orlando is scary, especially since he really relies on getting open outside shots, and they are the number one defense in terms of three-point attempts allowed and three-point makes. So, it's just not going to get a lot of open looks, and they're going to make it hard on him. So I don't think Christian Brown is as appealing as he normally would be. And fortunately, we don't have to force him in because we have a ton of other value to get excited about. Pritchard can be used here at shooting guard as well. I think Julian Strawther is worth mentioning because he did get 24 minutes last game. He's been playing a lot with no Russ or Watson. I think he's an okay dive at 3.9, especially if you just want a, pivot away from the chalkier options, or just in general, you want a guy that is cheaper, that has a bit of a ceiling at times, and he's also small forward eligible, which could come in handy. Don't think we need to make him a priority though, because I think Cam Whitmore at 4.1K would probably be that guy for me in the small forward range if Tari Eason is out. So Tari Eason missed the last game. He is now questionable, and Jabari Smith is already out, and Steven Adams is doubtful, like I said. So if Tari is out, Cam Whitmore looks really good as a value at 4.1K. I think that does it for shooting guard, though. So obviously you can use Cam at small forward as well, so I won't double down on him. Over at small forward, Jason Tatum leads the way. Most expensive small forward, best projecting small forward, and the Mavs are not a brutal matchup or anything. So on a slate where we don't have a ton of high-level studs, I mean, we do still have Jokic, and we have an expensive LeBron. I do think he is a discounted option compared to them. Pretty good projection, carrying a little bit of ownership. I do still think I feel like I would rather go higher. I just never love settling on Tatum. He can have a ceiling, but with all the Celtics guys there, it's going to take more than Drew being out to get me super excited to play Tatum. 66 fantasy points 2 games ago, but beyond that, he's not really been consistently paying off that price tag. So I think if his ownership is in check, I think he's interesting for tournaments. But right now, if I'm paying up at small forward, I'm looking at Franz Wagner or Amen Thompson. They're going to be a little bit less owned than Tatum, and they're both over $1,000 cheaper than him. The Franz projection is not that far off from Tatum, so he looks really good. And you know me, if you follow the show at all, I love Amen Thompson. Just he does everything when he's out there. I think I prefer Franz though today. Better projection, better matchup in general, and only $100 more. Already spoke on Jaylen Brown. He's fine. Denny Avdia projects really well. He was horrendous last game. We lived through that in Discord. It was brutal. Couldn't hit any of his shots. 10 fantasy points in 23 minutes. They've been involved in some blowouts lately, so I wouldn't read too much into the minutes, but Portland is at full strength right now. So Portland is really tough to trust across the board. Somebody in Discord was like, man, all these guys for the Blazers are 6.5K or there's about, and it's true. So that it's really tough to differentiate and separate these guys and, prioritize which one is really good. I think when I'm looking at the Blazers, I'm going to say, if everybody's there, Sharp and Scoot are coming off the bench and they're not as appealing because they're just super volatile and they're priced up too much to really invest in them and feel good about it. 6.6K for Scoot, that seems high. Good ceiling. He's going to get a lot of usage. Same with Sharp, but the price is too much. I'd rather take a shot on somebody like Pritchard or Pod or something that would be in a kind of a similar setting, or just be better plays without having to take on that risk of using somebody off the bench. But Denny at 6.6 looks good. If we can trust the minutes, I would anticipate a bounce back here against the Kings. So I think he's a really good play for sure. Like if you're looking at Jaylen Brown, you can save 1.4K and get a guy with a pretty similar projection. He is going to carry ownership though. So if discounted Denny gets chalky, I don't mind going a little bit away from that. The only thing is he is only $200 more than MPJ, who's going to carry way more ownership because he's been on a heater. I don't want to tell you not to play Michael Porter Jr. because he's gone for 52 and 68 fantasy points his last 2 games, but he's also been hitting like everything. So that probably won't last forever. And today against the top team, against top team at defending the 3-point line, I would not be shocked if this was a good time to get off of the Michael Porter Jr. hot streak. That said, he's been on fire. He projects pretty well, and he's only 6.4K. So do I hate him today? No, but I think if ownership's going to Michael Porter Jr., I will gladly get away from him. You can pivot to Denny. You can go down or you can go up. It doesn't really matter. I think I'll just go away. My favorite play, though, at small forward is actually Rui Hachimura, just because monster minutes, only 5.3K. The Lakers don't have many bodies. He's going to keep playing a ton, and he's been playing really well. So if you can get me 32 to 35 fantasy points at 5.3K, I will be content. But, he can do more than that for sure because he's going to get extra usage with no Anthony Davis and none of these other fringe rotation guys even there, really. The Lakers are just super shorthanded. Not going to pay 6.5K for Jaden McDaniels. Houston's not a good matchup. His projection's not amazing. He's just way too expensive. You can do that if you want. I just don't see why. Kawhi and DeMar, the prices are nice, but they're not projecting that well. And we know Kawhi still has a minutes limit, and obviously Levine is in there now. So I think all the Kings guys in general, it kind of balances it back out, like how we're looking at when De'Aaron Fox was there. They just kind of all eat into each other, and it's hard for anybody beyond maybe Sabonis to really stand out right now. Christian Brown, already touched on him. I think Tumani Kamara, 6K now. Don't love that. I like his minutes, but Shadon Sharp can cut into his minutes at any point, so I don't really want to do that. Cam Whitmore looks really good if Tari's out. Touched on him already. Najee at 4.7 is a good play if Brow does not play. Nah at 4.6K would be really interesting if Conley is out because we already know Julius isn't playing. So there's going to be extra minutes there in general. He's been getting 22, 25 minutes in the last 2 games. If Conley's out, he would push for like 30, 35 minutes for sure and would be a pretty good value. Don't know how necessary he'd be just because Pod is there and there's other guys. So certainly look at ownership today. Like if Conley's out and Naw is like the chalk for some reason, I would gladly look to get different from that. Probably does it as far as guys like I absolutely have to mention. All right, at power forward, LeBron James leads the way. Very expensive at 10.8K, coming in really chalky. I'm a little surprised, to be honest. But he's been smashing with no Anthony Davis. So if LeBron James, if that ownership goes down, I'll be very interested in being overweight on LeBron because obviously the price and the matchup and the presence of like Jokic could bring his ownership down. If it's where it's at, 40% LeBron at 10.8K, I'm going to fade that probably. He could still smash, but I would leverage that with Austin Reeves and I would just go pay guys that I feel better about in general. Like Tatum for $1,000 less, that feels like a better play. Anthony Davis for $300 less at like a fraction of the ownership, that feels like a better play. The matchup at Boston is terrible. We don't even know for sure if Brow is in yet. It's his first game with the Mavs, so certainly a lot of things could go wrong. But just in terms of like flipping the slate on its side, I think Anthony Davis is certainly in play. Banchero remains kind of cheap, and we know he has a ceiling and his projection's good, but he's been absolute ass. I mean, absolute ass. I'll tell you where I played this guy. Not here, not at the 53-point fantasy game, not at the 46 fantasy game, just all these other ones. Just trying to ride his ceiling and everything and see if I can get Banchero low owned in a tournament and just watch him go nuclear. And nope, hasn't happened yet. Certainly could happen because the Nuggets are a great matchup. So I don't hate Banchero. Recency bias is going to keep us from wanting to attack guys who are performing poorly, and it's going to want us to go after guys who are on hot streaks. I think Banchero is a really, really good GPP play today because people are going to want to live all the way up with LeBron or come down to like Denny and MPJ. So right in the middle ground, he is not going to be owned. I do like him and Franz a lot on this slate. And does it feel comfortable? No, it doesn't. But that's what you have to do sometimes. Not a core play, but a GPP play that I'm very high on right now. Siakam at 7.6 is okay. Naz Reid looks amazing though. Like if you have to pick one power forward to start building your lineups with, it's Naz Reid. 100%. Rockets are not a super friendly matchup, but look at what this guy is doing. Monster minutes, 40 and 35 minutes, nice usage rate, just super, super productive. 47 and 52 fantasy points. I don't know if I want to expect or demand that every time, but at 6.3K, he's too cheap for the role he has right now. And we know he's an awesome per minute guy, just thrust into this massive role with no Julius Randle. Nas looks awesome. He is a core play for me. I don't give a shit what else happens. He looks awesome. Tari is fine if he's in. At 5.2K, I think he's a fine play. Don't love that he's only power forward eligible. And, he's probably going to be somewhat limited, and Şengün is back. So, like, when Şengün was out, I was like, yeah, I'm Team Tari. Let's do that. I think he's just okay with Şengün there. There's still no Jabari Smith, and Steven Adams is doubtful. So I think if Tari is back, he is a totally fine play and possibly a leverage on Nas and MPJ because he's cheaper and about half his owned. Just don't think he's totally necessary is all. I think, and also Rui is going to be more owned, but I just think Rui is the better play. But both are totally viable. If you want to play Tari, you can play Tari. You don't have a problem with it. Dylan Brooks, just because the Rockets are a little bit shorthanded, don't hate it. But if you're going to play a Rockets guy that's cheap, I'd rather just play Tari or Reed Shepherd. Don't think we need to do that, really. Keegan Murray gets massive minutes, but not always massive usage. I think he's an okay value at 5K, but once again, I'd rather just play Tari or Rui over him, or just go up even further to Nas. I mean, dollar for dollar, Nas is my favorite power forward for sure. And I'd probably be playing Rui at small forward. But these other guys are still worth mentioning. Like Jared Vanderbilt, he's been kind of limited, I think. Yeah, it was maxing out like 18 minutes, but they are short on bodies. So Jared Vanderbilt at 3.2K, good per minute guy, not the worst punt out there. Even Dorian Finney-Smith, certainly prefer Jared Vanderbilt though, because he's got the same projection at $600 less and, coming in with half the minutes projection. Moses Moody is questionable. If he's in at 4.2K, he should play 25 to 30 minutes because the Warriors are super shorthanded. Don't hate him. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I think he's a good value. Definitely prefer Pod as opposed to him, and probably Healed as well, but he's definitely in play. Don't think anything else is a must here. All right, let's wrap things up at center. My cat is attacking my foot. Sorry about that. All right, so Nikola Jokic. Let me get a drink of water real quick before we wrap it. So Nikola Jokic is facing the Magic. Not a fun matchup. He's almost 13K. I want all the Nikola Jokic, though. 2%? I don't think that's actually going to hold. But if we get sub 20% Nikola Jokic just because he's facing the Magic and he's expensive, give me all the Jokic. I think we're looking at the slate wrong in that regard. I think anytime it's kind of funny because like if Jokic is chalk, it's like, oh shit, do I fade chalky Jokic and risk my night being over immediately when he gets like 80? That's not fun. Or do I fade expensive Jokic when he's unowned because the matchup is terrible? I think I can't fade Jokic because his ownership. So my personal take is he's got the best projection of the slate. He's got the best ceiling of the slate. The matchup's terrible and his price is high. So those are the reasons why people don't want to play him. I want to play him for the other reasons though. Definitely want to take advantage of that anytime I can. But no worries. If you don't want to play Jokic, just construct your lineup differently. I'm not going to make him a core play, and I'm not going to say you have to play him. I am just definitely going to, because that is amazing if I can get a possible shot at 90 fantasy points at no ownership or very low ownership. That's super, super appealing. Sabonis is fine at 9.6. It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period possibly for the Kings with no Fox and integrating Levine into their system here. And the Blazers have been kind of good. So I think Sabonis is a good tourney play, but he's actually picking up a little bit of ownership. So I don't know. I don't feel amazing about it. I don't feel amazing about Brow. I think they're potentially good GPP plays. And you can throw Şengün at 8.8K in there too, but none of them have great matchups. So like if you're going to really play a guy who's expensive, that has a brutal matchup, I would just rather pay for Jokic. Porzingis looks really good at 7.5K though. There's a lot of good high mid-range guys. Porzingis, Ayton, Zubac, and even Daniel Gafford. If Brow is out, I love Gafford at 7.1K. He smashed against the Celtics earlier this year. Let me pull up his his game here. 48 fantasy points in 32 minutes. So, he'd be needed out there still with Porzingis and everything. So I think he would be a really good GPP play if Davis is out. I think you could still try him if Davis is in, just because they still don't have Derek Lively or PJ Washington. But the Mavs did say that they want to close games with Brow at the 5. Like, would they do that right away, even though they're shorthanded? I don't know, but that seems like a risky thing to do. So if Brow is in, I would go somewhere else with Gafford. If Brow is out, I would imagine his projection spikes and perhaps people don't really react to it because of the matchup, and then he could be a really interesting tournament play. As things stand, Porzingis is a better play, Zubac is a better play, and even Ayton is a better play. I think if I'm going to pay for somebody in that range, though, it's going to be Porzingis, just because he's a little bit more stable, has a better ceiling than those guys, and he's not as owned as Zubac. Just feels safer than Ayton as well. I don't think I'm going to go too far down here at center. I think Jokic, to me, is a priority, and there's too many other guys who have monster upside. And if you don't use them at power forward, Naz Reid can be used here too. I'll mention Rudy Gobert just because he just keeps wrecking. I don't love the 6.8K price on him, but he's going to be needed against Şengün, so he'll be out there, and I think he's in play. I don't love the projection, though, so I'm not doing it personally. I much prefer Naz Reid, but I think the production speaks for itself. He's been good. He's been really good. It's like old Rudy is back. Julius Randle's absence has helped a lot of these guys out, in particular Naz and Rudy. I can't turn a blind eye to that. I have to mention it. I just don't love the price. And, he's not a great offensive player, obviously. So I think there's enough reasons for me to not fire up Rudy at 6.8. Miles Turner, 6.2. Don't love the matchup against Zoo, but we know he has a ceiling. I think he's okay. Kevon Looney's an okay punt at 4K. Don't think that's where I want to punt, though, on this slate. He's a pretty thin play. Great rebounding guy, but not an offensive player, and probably going to be limited in terms of minutes anyways, because, both these teams could end up going small, to be honest. There's no Brow there to defend or anything, so I would not be shocked if he's just kind of irrelevant. If that does happen, though, Jackson Hayes is also in there, 4.5K. Again, just not super excited about any of the value here, though. I think you can look at those guys, but I will not. Obviously, some news could pop before I wrap it up. I'm going to check that right now to make sure I'm giving you as updated information as I can. Anthony Davis is unlikely to play. His debut is slated for Saturday at this point. So, like I said, Daniel Gafford looks really, really good. With that news, I think I would actually put Gafford above Porzingis, Ayton, and Zubac then. So if you're playing Naz at center, I wouldn't do that because there's so many good centers. I'd put Naz at power forward or forward. But if you're playing at Naz at center, he's my favorite dollar for dollar play at center. But Gafford has now jumped up to my second favorite pure center play of the slate. It's Jokic and Gafford. Love Gafford with no Brow there. All right, that is going to do it for the player-by-player breakdown. My strategy right now, my flag plant is going to be I'm going over on Jokic, and that's going to be baked into my strategy. Over on Jokic, under on LeBron. It's like super simple in my eyes. And then I'm going to look for a couple of advantageous spots to get different. Like, I don't know if I have to, though. I don't know if I have to force it any more than not playing LeBron and playing Jokic. If that's what the field's going to do, like right away, I get super different. And I still have the guy with the best projection, the best ceiling of the entire slate, which is crazy to me. We'll see if it adapts and everything. And we'll help you adapt as well in Discord if you click the link below this video and come join us. That is free to come join our chat and talk shop. And also DraftKings main slate core plays leading up into lock are also free. If you want to take advantage of additional options, like I said, we do have our MMA DFS picks every week. We have FanDuel main slate core plays, and we have DraftKings night slate core plays. All of that can be accessed in our Patreon, which, by the way, it can help you. You can test it out for a 7-day free trial, and if you like it, you can stick around and make money and also support us and help us keep doing this and help you out at the same time. Also, hit that like button. Really helps us out, helps get the video a little bit of exposure in YouTube's eyes, and also subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already, because you'll get alerted to future videos just like this. Last thing to mention, I did do a Super Bowl DFS showdown video. You can catch that at the end of this. Also, be sure to check that out if you plan on playing any NFL DFS for Super Bowl Sunday. Thanks for watching, and good luck.